If you are at the bleeding edge of classic gaming, then you've heard of MiSTer, the open source FPGA-based emulation platform based on the fundamental goal of hardware accuracy. MiSTer already has tons of cores spanning 8 to 32-bit consoles, home computers, arcade games, and more. In this series, I'll feature one FPGA core every day for the next 21 days to ring in the new year. And today's featured core is the Ghosts and Goblins arcade core by Jotego, a Spanish FPGA coder who takes the hardcore approach to his hardware description language. What I mean by that is that he works to essentially transcode real arcade PCBs to HDL, the code used in FPGAs. He buys or gets physical access to every game board that he makes a core for, then logic probes it and gets the timing correct in ways that software-based emulators simply can't touch. His YouTube channel is full of comparison videos putting his FPGA cores against MAME, and the results speak for themselves. You need the timing to be absolutely exact to a real PCB if you're going to train for competitive classic arcade gaming, and that's an area where MiSTer shines like no other emulation platform. Jotego has already done a number of MiSTer cores, including Vulgus, 1942, 1943, Commando, Gunsmoke, Tiger Road, Black Tiger, Bionic Commando, Popeye, F1 Dream, and he even has his sights on other big multi-arcade cores like Namco System 1, think Splatterhouse and Dragon Spirit. And all of his work thus far is a build-up to Capcom CPS 1. His cores are essentially collections of the ICs and circuits that will be necessary for this, and you can see this in his evolutionary approach to his choice of arcade PCBs. He's tackling important sound chips, processors, and graphic chips that will make life so much easier for other FPGA devs too. It's just hard to get across how important this kind of foundational open source work is. Plus, as a treat to users, we get these incredibly fun and dead accurate arcade games to play as he progresses. Each of Jotego's cores is one more big step towards that end goal of the massively popular Capcom CPS 1 platform that had games like Street Fighter II, Strider, Punisher, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, and dozens of other high-profile games from the late 80s to mid-90s. And it's a powerhouse. In that same train of thought, Capcom CPS 1.5 and CPS 2 were direct descendants to the CPS 1. And with CPS 2, you'd be talking about the cream of the crop of 2D mid to late 90s games like the Street Fighter Alpha series, and Capcom's big fighting game hits, some insane shoot-em-ups, and a handful of great beat-em-ups like Alien vs. Predator. Let's not get ahead of ourselves though. I'm just forecasting into the long-term payoffs of work like what Jotego's doing. Today though, I'm featuring one of Jotego's earlier cores, which caused a huge sensation in the MiSTer world when it dropped. Ghosts and Goblins, or Makaimura, the iconic 1985 platformer, if you can believe that, from Capcom, which looks light years beyond the mid-80s if you're used to console gaming. It's the forerunner to Ghouls and Ghosts, and these days doesn't get the attention it deserves. Yet when it was new, it was a smash hit, and it was ported to almost everything. Those home ports though all bow down to the real arcade game, and none are anywhere near perfect. Even the best of them are seriously flawed in one way or another, and can't in any way compare to what Jotego has given us in this core. And just talking in dollar terms, Ghosts and Goblins in working condition can easily sell for upwards of $1,000 these days, and even the bootlegs of it cost a fortune, and none of them have native HDMI outputs or controller ports. The game looks and plays beautifully via HDMI, or if you have the I/O board or a cheap direct video dongle, you can play it on any CRT, which to me is where it really shines. For all intents and purposes, this is the arcade game, and it's the closest you'll get to it without traveling to an arcade. Ghosts and Goblins is one of those games that will bring out your inner rage, but stick with it and you'll start to make a little progress. At least that's what I tell myself. Luckily you can switch it into easy mode to start out, and you can increase things like the number of lives you get. One important note about this game is that it has a strange way of continuing. In order to continue, you have to have a coin in and hold down the fire button while you press start. There were instructions on the actual cabinet for that, but it can confuse you nowadays, and I had to look it up myself the first time I played it. But just hold down that fire button and press start whenever you're prompted to continue. Well, there's my look at one rare, beautiful game by Capcom, and having it here right at your fingertips still does feel a little surreal. What kind of universe are we living in where we get these kind of arcade games absolutely free? If you do really love Jotego's work though, make sure to support him on Patreon, where you'll get early access to everything he's working on, beta cores, and you'll be the first to know about his upcoming plans and works in progress. Jotego is absolutely one of those lone wolf FPGA wizards, and he's a huge Capcom fan. It doesn't get any better than that, does it? We're going to see some incredible stuff from him in the future. So what core will be next in my countdown? Find out tomorrow in my next video. This video represents a snapshot of the core as it exists today, but by the time you're watching this in the future, it may have been improved or expanded with new features. Hit the subscribe button to be kept up to date with all the latest MiSTer happenings, and ring the bell to be notified when I go live for a stream. If you like the channel, consider supporting it. Patreon support at any level gets you an instant invite to the SmokeMonster Elite Discord and early access to my videos. Thank you so much for your support, I really appreciate it.